Aaliyah sat quietly at her little desk, her small hands folded neatly in front of her. But her legs shifted slightly every few seconds. Ms. Callahan, her first-grade teacher, watched her from across the room, her brow furrowed in concern. There was something different about Aaliyah, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. At first glance, she was just another student, shy and polite, always doing her work diligently. But something in the way she moved made Ms. Callahan uneasy. The morning sunlight streamed through the windows, casting warm patterns on the classroom floor. The children were busy with their coloring books, crayons scattered in a chaotic yet beautiful mess across the desks. Some of the kids were laughing, others quietly humming to themselves, but Aaliyah sat apart, her attention half on the drawings and half on the way her legs hurt when she tried to sit still. "Aaliyah, are you feeling okay today?" Ms. Callahan asked gently, approaching her desk. The little girl looked up quickly, her eyes wide and hesitant. She shook her head slightly but didn't speak. "It's okay if something's wrong. You can tell me," Ms. Callahan encouraged, lowering her voice to a calm, soothing tone. Aaliyah's lips pressed together and she looked down at her hands. The classroom buzzed around them, but it was as if the noise had faded away, leaving only the two of them in that quiet moment. Days passed and Ms. Callahan noticed the same pattern. Every time Aaliyah sat down, she would shift uncomfortably, sometimes wincing ever so slightly. The teacher's concern grew. She had seen many children in her years of teaching, some with scraped knees, some with tummy aches, but something about Aaliyah's discomfort felt different. It wasn't just physical. There was a hesitation in the way she moved, a tension in her tiny body that spoke of something deeper. One morning during circle time, as the children gathered around the colorful rug, Aaliyah whispered something so soft that Ms. Callahan almost didn't hear it. "It hurts when I sit." The words were small, fragile, but they hit Ms. Callahan like a wave. She knelt down to Aaliyah's level, trying to mask the worry in her voice. "Can you tell me more about that, sweetie? Did you fall or get hurt?" Aaliyah shook her head, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. She looked away, glancing toward the window as if the outside world could offer some escape. Ms. Callahan's heart ached. She had been trained to recognize signs of distress, to notice when something was wrong. But hearing a 6-year-old confess pain in that way was something else entirely. It was raw, innocent, and alarming all at once. After circle time, Ms. Callahan made a note in her teacher's journal. She wrote down the details carefully, knowing that sometimes what seemed small to an adult could mean the world to a child. She remembered the way Aaliyah had clasped her hands together, the way she had avoided eye contact, the slight tremble in her voice. Each detail was important. Each detail was a clue. Later that week, Ms. Callahan found a moment alone with Aaliyah during free play. The children were building towers with blocks, their laughter filling the room. Ms. Callahan sat beside Aaliyah on a small beanbag, careful to make herself approachable. "You know, Aaliyah, if something's hurting you, it's okay to tell me." "I can help," she said softly. Aaliyah's hands twisted in her lap. She bit her lip and then whispered, It's when I sit. It really hurts." Her voice was trembling, barely audible over the sounds of the other children. Ms. Callahan nodded, encouraging her without pressure. "I understand, sweetie. You're very brave for telling me. We're going to make sure you're okay." The little girl's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't run away. She stayed close, as if sensing that Ms. Callahan truly wanted to help. That afternoon, the teacher observed Aaliyah closely, noting her posture, the way she shifted in her seat, and the way she seemed reluctant to fully relax. Each observation added to a growing concern that this was more than just a minor discomfort. Ms. Callahan reached out to the school counselor, sharing her observations and expressing her worries. They discussed ways to approach Aaliyah gently, ensuring the child felt safe and supported. The counselor emphasized patience, listening without judgment, and allowing the child to speak at her own pace. Ms. Callahan took the advice seriously, determined to create an environment where Aaliyah could feel secure enough to open up. Over the next few days, Ms. Callahan made it a point to spend small moments with Aaliyah, checking in during lessons, walking with her during recess, and sitting nearby during lunchtime. She noticed subtle signs of fear and hesitation that seemed out of place for a child so young. Sometimes Aaliyah would glance nervously toward the door or flinch at sudden noises. These small moments, though easy to overlook, painted a picture of a child carrying something heavy on her shoulders. One afternoon, while the other children were engaged in art projects, Ms. Callahan sat next to Aaliyah at a table covered in colored paper and glue sticks. Do you want to tell me why it hurts when you sit? You don't have to if you're scared, but I'm here for you, she said, her voice gentle and steady. Aaliyah looked at her, her eyes wide and vulnerable. She hesitated, her tiny hands clutching a paper flower she had made. After a long pause, she whispered, I don't like it when he touches me. Her voice was barely audible, but the weight of her words filled the room. Ms. Callahan's stomach dropped. She had suspected something serious, but hearing it from Aaliyah's own mouth made it real in a way that was almost unbearable. Ms. Callahan took a deep breath, carefully choosing her next words. Thank you for telling me, Aaliyah. You did the right thing by speaking up. I'm going to help you and you will be safe. She reached out and gently held Aaliyah's small hand, offering reassurance without forcing anything. The child's fingers trembled as she held on, seeking comfort and protection. That day, Ms. Callahan stayed after school to write detailed notes about the conversation. She described Aaliyah's words, her body language, and the emotions she had witnessed. Every word was important. Every detail mattered. She knew that this was the beginning of a process that could change Aaliyah's life forever, and she wanted to ensure that no piece of information was overlooked. Ms. Callahan also prepared herself emotionally. She knew that helping Aaliyah would be challenging, but she was determined to do everything in her power to protect the little girl. She couldn't undo the past, but she could help create a future where Aaliyah felt safe, loved, and heard. The thought of the child suffering in silence strengthened her resolve. The following week, Ms. Callahan continued her gentle approach. She made sure Aaliyah had opportunities to speak when she felt comfortable, always reassuring her that it was okay to express her feelings. The little girl began to trust her more, showing small signs of relief as she realized that someone believed her and was willing to help. Each tiny step was significant. Each small moment of courage built a bridge toward healing and safety. By observing, listening, and supporting Aaliyah, Ms. Callahan created a safe space within the classroom. She made adjustments to seating arrangements, ensured Aaliyah was never left alone with others who might cause harm, and maintained a careful watch over her well-being. The teacher's actions were deliberate, thoughtful, and compassionate, reflecting her deep commitment to protecting a child who had already endured too much. Aaliyah's classmates noticed the changes too. She began participating more in class, albeit cautiously. She shared ideas quietly and smiled occasionally, small signs that she felt a little safer in the environment Ms. Callahan had worked so hard to make protective. The teacher encouraged these moments, celebrating each sign of progress and reinforcing the child's confidence. As the days turned into weeks, Ms. Callahan's concern remained steady, but she also felt hope. Aaliyah's bravery in speaking out was inspiring, a testament to the resilience children can possess even in the face of fear. The teacher knew the road ahead would be long, filled with difficult conversations and careful decisions, but she also knew that with patience, understanding, and unwavering support, Aaliyah could begin to heal every day. Ms. Callahan reminded herself that being present, listening, and believing in Aaliyah was the most important thing she could do. She stayed vigilant, attentive to the smallest signs, and committed to protecting the little girl from further harm. Each shift in Aaliyah's behavior, each hesitant smile, and each moment of trust was a victory in itself. By the end of the first part of this journey, Aaliyah had found a small measure of safety in her classroom. The fear and pain she carried were still present, but she was no longer alone. Ms. Callahan's consistent care, her attentive listening, and her gentle encouragement had begun to make a difference. For the first time, Aaliyah realized that speaking up could bring support and protection, a lesson that would shape the path of her healing in the days to come. Over the next few days, Aaliyah began to feel a small sense of safety in Ms. Callahan's presence. She still wavered between fear and relief, but the teacher's gentle approach gave her the courage to open up in small ways. Ms. Callahan noticed that Aaliyah would sometimes linger after class, quietly arranging her books or drawing pictures, glancing at the teacher for reassurance. It was clear that she was testing the waters, learning whether she could trust someone with her deepest worries. One afternoon, during free play, Ms. Callahan knelt down beside Aaliyah and said softly, "You know, you can tell me anything that's hurting you. I promise I will listen and I will help." Aaliyah hesitated, her small fingers fidgeting with the edges of her paper. The other children's laughter faded into the background as if the room itself had slowed down for this delicate moment. Finally, in a trembling voice, Aaliyah whispered, It's him." He touches me and it hurts when I sit." Her eyes filled with tears, and she looked down at the floor, ashamed and scared. Ms. Callahan's heart ached, but she stayed calm, remembering that the child needed reassurance, not panic. "You are very brave for telling me, Aaliyah. I believe you and I will do everything I can to keep you safe," Ms. Callahan said gently. She reached out and held the little girl's hand, letting her know that she was not alone. Aaliyah clutched her hand tightly, a small sign of trust forming between them. That evening, Ms. Callahan sat at her desk, her mind racing. She had been trained to handle situations like this, but the reality was always more difficult. The thought of a 6-year-old enduring such pain and fear was almost too much to bear. She wrote down everything Aaliyah had said, her words, her gestures, the tremble in her voice, and the look in her eyes. Each detail mattered. Each detail could be important for the next steps. Ms. Callahan knew she couldn't keep this secret or try to handle it alone. She contacted the school counselor and explained the situation, being careful to use precise and factual language. The counselor listened attentively and agreed that immediate action was necessary to protect Aaliyah. They discussed involving Child Protective Services and the local police to ensure the child's safety. The next day, Ms. Callahan prepared herself to speak with Aaliyah again, knowing that she needed to maintain trust while gathering more information. During recess, she gently asked the girl, "Can you tell me a little more about what happens, only if you feel safe?" Aaliyah nodded slightly, her eyes wide with fear and hope intertwined. She spoke in small, careful sentences, revealing moments of fear and discomfort she had endured at home. Each word was painful, but it also shed light on the seriousness of her situation. Ms. Callahan remained calm and patient, nodding and offering gentle words of reassurance. "You're very brave, Aaliyah. I'm so proud of you for telling me. We're going to make sure you are safe now." The teacher's voice was steady, a grounding presence in a world that had been full of uncertainty for the little girl. After gathering enough information to understand the immediate risks, Ms. Callahan contacted the school principal and discussed the next steps. They agreed that the authorities needed to be involved, and Child Protective Services would coordinate with the police to ensure Aaliyah's protection. The teacher stayed by Aaliyah's side, offering comfort and explaining that the adults involved were there to help, not punish. Aaliyah's trust in Ms. Callahan grew as the days passed. She began to confide in the teacher during quiet moments, sharing feelings of fear, sadness, and confusion. Ms. Callahan listened without judgment, validating the child's emotions and reinforcing the message that Aaliyah's feelings were important and her safety was a priority. The police and Child Protective Services arrived at the school to speak with Aaliyah in a child-friendly environment. Officers explained that they were there to help and protect her, and that she could speak freely about anything that had happened. Aaliyah clutched Ms. Callahan's hand as she recounted the incidents, her small voice trembling but her words clear. Each sentence revealed a part of the story that had been hidden in silence, now coming to light with the support of a trusted adult. The investigation moved quickly. Aaliyah was placed in a safe environment away from the home where she had experienced harm. She stayed with a trained foster family, a home that provided stability, care, and the kind of attention a child her age needed. Ms. Callahan visited regularly, reading stories, playing games, and simply being present to remind Aaliyah that she was not alone. Therapy became an essential part of Aaliyah's healing process. She met with a counselor who specialized in helping children recover from trauma. Through games, drawing, and gentle conversation, she began to express emotions she had kept hidden for far too long. Ms. Callahan supported this work, reinforcing the lessons of safety and trust in the classroom. The community learned about Aaliyah's courage in small, careful ways. Her story became a quiet reminder of the importance of listening to children, recognizing signs of distress, and acting swiftly to protect them. Ms. Callahan's intervention had not only saved Aaliyah from immediate danger, but had also prevented further harm. As weeks turned into months, Aaliyah's confidence slowly returned. She started to participate more actively in class, engaging in activities she had once avoided. Her laughter, once rare, began to appear in small bursts, a sign that she was reclaiming pieces of her childhood. Ms. Callahan continued to watch over her, celebrating each small victory, each smile, each moment of courage. Through all of this, Aaliyah learned that speaking up was powerful. She discovered that trusted adults could protect her, that her feelings were valid, and that she could find safety, even in a world that had previously felt threatening. Ms. Callahan's unwavering support demonstrated the profound impact a caring adult could have on a child in distress. By the end of this part of the journey, Aaliyah had taken her first important steps toward healing. The fear and pain remained, but she now had allies who believed her, supported her, and worked tirelessly to ensure her well-being. Her story was one of courage, trust, and the power of human compassion, showing that even the smallest voices could speak truths that demanded action and care. The morning sun cast a soft glow over the school playground as Aaliyah walked with Ms. Callahan to her classroom. Her small hand clutched the teacher's tightly, seeking comfort in the warmth of someone who cared. Although she was safe now, a sense of unease still lingered within her, a shadow of the fear she had carried for months. Ms. Callahan understood that recovery would take time, patience, and constant reassurance. Inside the classroom, Aaliyah's eyes darted around nervously. She still flinched at sudden movements and sometimes hesitated before sitting down. Ms. Callahan stayed close, watching carefully, ready to intervene if needed. She reminded Aaliyah that she could take her time and that no one would rush her. Each small step, each moment of trust was a victory in the slow process of healing. The school had contacted Child Protective Services and the local police to ensure Aaliyah's safety. Officers visited the school to talk to her in a calm, child-friendly environment. They explained gently that they were there to help and protect her, and that she could share anything without fear. Aaliyah clung to Miss Callahan's hand as she recounted the events she had endured at home. Her voice was small and shaky, but it was clear and truthful. Each word was a piece of the puzzle, helping the adults understand the full extent of what she had suffered. Ms. Callahan stayed nearby, her presence a steady anchor for the frightened child. She whispered soft encouragements, reminding Aaliyah that she was safe, that she was believed, and that no one could hurt her anymore. The little girl squeezed her hand tightly, finding a sense of security in the familiar comfort. After the initial interviews, Aaliyah was placed in a temporary foster home, with a family trained to support children who had experienced trauma. The new environment was unfamiliar, yet it provided safety, warmth, and care. Ms. Callahan visited often, reading stories with Aaliyah, playing simple games, and helping her feel a sense of normalcy. These visits were a bridge between the world she had feared and the world she could learn to trust. Therapy became an essential part of Aaliyah's life. She met with a counselor who used gentle methods to help her express her feelings. Through drawing, storytelling, and small activities, she began to open up about her experiences. Ms. Callahan reinforced these lessons, teaching her that it was okay to talk about her emotions and that expressing them was a sign of strength, not weakness. The investigation into the abuse continued, with authorities gathering statements, medical reports, and other evidence. It was a painstaking process, but necessary to ensure justice and prevent further harm. Aaliyah's courage in speaking out played a vital role in protecting herself and potentially other children. Her story reminded everyone involved of the importance of listening to children and taking their words seriously. Back at school, Ms. Callahan worked to create a supportive and safe environment. She adjusted classroom routines, ensured Aaliyah was never left alone with anyone who might cause harm, and provided opportunities for her to participate at her own pace. Each day, she celebrated Aaliyah's small victories, whether it was a smile, a laugh, or simply sitting comfortably in her seat. These moments were significant markers of progress, and they built the foundation for healing. Aaliyah's classmates noticed her gradual change. She began engaging more in group activities, answering questions with quiet confidence and sharing ideas during class discussions. Her laughter, once rare, started to return in small bursts, signaling that she was beginning to feel safe and accepted. Ms. Callahan encouraged these moments, reinforcing the positive interactions and nurturing her sense of belonging. At home, in her foster family, Aaliyah slowly adjusted to her new routine. She learned to trust her caregivers, who offered consistent love, attention, and stability. The house was filled with gentle rules, clear boundaries, and daily encouragements that helped her feel secure. Nighttime, which had once been a source of fear, became a period of calm, with bedtime stories and soft songs providing comfort and reassurance. As Aaliyah progressed, Ms. Callahan continued to monitor her emotional well-being, She communicated regularly with the foster family and the therapist, ensuring that Aaliyah's needs were being met and that any signs of distress were addressed promptly. The teacher's dedication extended beyond the classroom, reflecting a deep commitment to the child's overall safety and development. Throughout this period, Aaliyah began to understand that the adults around her were allies. She realized that she could express herself without fear of punishment, that her feelings were valid, and that she was not responsible for the harm she had suffered. This understanding was transformative, allowing her to start rebuilding trust and forming healthy relationships with others. The community also played a role in her journey. Friends, neighbors, and school staff were made aware of the situation in a sensitive and protective manner, ensuring that Aaliyah's privacy and safety were prioritized. Their support created a network of care, reinforcing the message that she was not alone and that people were willing to step in to protect her. As months passed, Aaliyah's confidence grew. She began to participate more actively in school activities, showing creativity, curiosity, and resilience. Each day brought new challenges and small triumphs, reinforcing the lessons of safety, trust, and self-expression. Ms. Callahan celebrated these moments, knowing that progress in healing was often measured in subtle signs rather than dramatic changes. Through therapy, school support, and a caring foster home, Aaliyah started to reclaim aspects of her childhood that had been overshadowed by fear and trauma. She learned to play freely, to laugh without hesitation, and to express her thoughts and feelings openly. Each step, however small, was a testament to her bravery and the power of compassionate adults who had chosen to believe and support her. By the end of this part of her journey, Aaliyah had taken significant steps toward healing. The fear and pain she carried were still present, but she now had a safe environment, trusted adults, and supportive peers. She was learning that speaking out could bring protection and care, and that even in a world that had once felt dangerous, there were people committed to keeping her safe. Her journey was ongoing, but the foundations of resilience, trust, and hope were firmly in place. Aaliyah's mornings at school had started to feel a little brighter. She still clutched Ms. Callahan's hand when walking into the classroom, but the tight grip loosened slightly as she grew more comfortable. Ms. Callahan continued to provide a safe presence, offering reassuring smiles and gentle words to help her feel at ease. Every small sign of trust, every moment where Aaliyah relaxed even slightly, felt like a victory. The foster home Aaliyah now lived in was filled with warmth and structure. Her foster parents had a calm, predictable routine that made her feel safe. Breakfasts were quiet and nurturing, afternoons were spent with homework or play, and evenings ended with bedtime stories and soft music. For the first time, Aaliyah began to feel the sense of stability she had been missing for so long. Therapy sessions became a cornerstone of her healing. She met regularly with a counselor who specialized in helping children process trauma. They used gentle techniques like drawing and storytelling to help Aaliyah express the feelings she had bottled up for months. Sometimes tears came, but sometimes laughter did too, a mix of emotions that indicated progress. Ms. Callahan supported these sessions by reinforcing the importance of expressing feelings, reminding Aaliyah that being scared or sad was normal and okay. Meanwhile, the investigation into her abuse continued. Police officers and Child Protective Services worked tirelessly to gather evidence, interview witnesses, and ensure that the abuser could not harm Aaliyah or any other child. The process was long and difficult, but each step was necessary to ensure justice and prevent further abuse. Aaliyah didn't need to understand all the details, but she could sense that adults were working to protect her, and that knowledge gave her a sense of security. At school, Ms. Callahan adjusted routines to help Aaliyah feel safe. She made sure that Aaliyah was never left alone with anyone who might cause harm. She arranged seating so that the child had visibility and control over her space. During group activities, Ms. Callahan would stand nearby, allowing Aaliyah to participate without fear. These small accommodations reinforced the message that Aaliyah's safety was a priority, and that adults were actively looking out for her. The little girl also began to interact more with her classmates. Initially, she would observe from a distance, hesitant to join in games or discussions. Over time, with encouragement from Ms. Callahan and the support of her peers, she began to participate. She answered questions quietly, shared ideas during class activities, and even laughed during playtime. These small steps were monumental for a child who had endured fear and silence for so long. Ms. Callahan often spent time reading with Aaliyah, helping her engage with stories that reflected courage, kindness, and resilience. They talked about the characters' challenges and how they overcame them. These moments helped Aliyah see that people could face difficulties and come through stronger on the other side. The lessons from the stories mirrored her own journey, subtly teaching her that she too could grow and heal. In her foster home, Aliyah developed trust slowly but surely. She began to speak openly about her feelings, ask questions, and engage in daily activities with curiosity. The foster parents celebrated her achievements no matter how small, reinforcing the message that she was valued and loved. Even simple acts like drawing a picture or helping set the table became confidence-building moments. The support system surrounding Aliyah extended beyond just the classroom and the foster home. Counselors, social workers, and medical professionals coordinated carefully to ensure she had everything she needed to thrive. They worked together to monitor her emotional and physical health, adjusting strategies as needed to respond to her progress and challenges. This network of care was essential in creating a comprehensive safety net for her recovery. One day, during an art class, Aliyah painted a picture of a bright sun shining over a peaceful park. Ms. Callahan noticed the joy in her expression and said, "This is beautiful, Aliyah. It looks happy and safe." Aliyah smiled shyly, her eyes reflecting a spark of hope. Moments like these were significant indicators that she was beginning to feel secure and capable of expressing herself without fear. At therapy, Aliyah sometimes revisited the memories of her abuse, but she did so in a safe environment where she was supported and believed. The counselor used games and drawing exercises to help her process the pain, and gradually, she started to separate the fear she experienced in the past from her present reality of safety. She learned to recognize that the adults around her were there to protect, not harm, and that her feelings and experiences were valid. Ms. Callahan continued to be a constant source of reassurance. She celebrated small milestones like when Aliyah shared a story with a classmate or asked a question in front of the group. Each moment reinforced the lesson that speaking up and trusting others could lead to safety and positive connections. The teacher's dedication helped Aliyah develop a sense of stability and confidence that had been absent in her life for too long. As months passed, the court case regarding the abuser began to take shape. While the details were complex and sometimes difficult to understand, Aliyah was shielded from anything that could cause further distress. Adults explained things in ways she could comprehend, emphasizing that she was safe, protected, and believed. The process was challenging, but it was another step toward justice and closure. Aliyah's trust in adults grew stronger with each passing day. She began to rely on her foster parents, her counselor, and Ms. Callahan as allies who could help her navigate the world safely. She started to express opinions, make choices, and engage in activities she had previously avoided. Each small act of independence and self-expression was a step toward reclaiming the childhood she deserved. In school, her classmates continued to show support in subtle ways. They included her in group activities, listened to her ideas, and respected her space when she needed it. These positive interactions helped reinforce her sense of belonging, a crucial component in building confidence and trust. Ms. Callahan nurtured these social connections, guiding the class to be understanding and empathetic toward each other. Aliyah's life gradually began to reflect a balance of safety, learning, and play. She had moments of joy and creativity, moments where fear no longer dictated her actions. She learned that adults could provide protection and guidance, that expressing her emotions was powerful, and that she had the right to feel safe in every environment. These lessons were essential in helping her rebuild trust and form healthy attachments. By the end of this stage in her journey, Aliyah had made remarkable progress. While the trauma of her past could not be erased, she had gained the tools, support, and resilience to face life with courage. The adults around her, Ms. Callahan, her foster family, and her support network, had created a strong foundation for her recovery. Aliyah had begun to understand that she was not alone, that she was believed, and that her voice mattered. This growing sense of safety, trust, and empowerment set the stage for her continued healing and the possibility of a brighter future. Aliyah's days had started to feel brighter and more predictable, filled with small moments of safety, joy, and learning. She had begun to understand that the world could be a place where she was cared for and protected. Ms. Callahan continued to be a guiding presence, offering gentle support and encouragement as Aaliyah navigated the complex emotions from her past experiences. Each day brought new opportunities to build confidence and trust, and the little girl began to embrace them slowly but surely. In school, Aaliyah participated more actively in class, sharing ideas and engaging with her classmates in activities that once seemed overwhelming. She laughed more freely and expressed herself without the fear that had once weighed heavily on her small shoulders. Ms. Callahan celebrated these moments quietly, understanding that each smile, each small act of courage was a victory in itself. These victories were not grand or dramatic, but they represented real progress in healing and resilience. Her foster family played a crucial role in reinforcing the lessons of safety and trust. They provided a nurturing environment where Aaliyah could thrive, filled with clear routines, gentle guidance, and unconditional support. They encouraged her to participate in household activities, celebrate her achievements, and explore her interests. Each of these experiences helped Aaliyah feel a sense of belonging and control over her life, which was essential for rebuilding confidence. Therapy continued to be an important part of her recovery. Through art, storytelling, and guided conversations, Aaliyah learned to process her feelings and understand that what happened to her was not her fault. The counselor helped her develop strategies for coping with fear, expressing emotions, and building self-confidence. Aaliyah gradually began to see herself not just as a victim of past events, but as a strong, resilient child capable of growth and happiness. As the investigation and legal proceedings continued, Aaliyah was shielded from the details that could cause distress. Adults explained things in ways she could understand, always emphasizing that she was safe, believed, and protected. This approach helped her maintain a sense of security and allowed her to focus on healing rather than worry or fear. The professionals involved worked carefully and thoughtfully, ensuring that Aaliyah's well-being was the top priority. At school, Ms. Callahan remained a constant support. She continued to monitor Aaliyah's interactions, providing guidance when necessary and celebrating her successes. Aaliyah's classmates also adapted, learning to respect her boundaries and offer support in small, meaningful ways. These positive social interactions reinforced Aaliyah's sense of belonging and helped her develop trust in relationships outside of her immediate family. One afternoon, during a group activity, Aaliyah shared a story she had written. The story was full of imagination, courage, and hope. Ms. Callahan praised her creativity and bravery, highlighting how important it was to express oneself. Aaliyah's face lit up with pride, a reflection of the confidence she was gradually reclaiming. Moments like these were not only educational but also therapeutic, helping her see her own strength and potential. In her foster home, Aaliyah experienced stability and predictability, which were essential for rebuilding trust. Mealtimes, bedtime routines, and daily activities followed consistent patterns, providing a sense of safety she had rarely known. Her foster parents encouraged her to explore her interests, ask questions, and participate in decisions appropriate for her age. These opportunities fostered a sense of autonomy and empowerment, reinforcing the idea that she had control over her own life. Aaliyah also learned to navigate her emotions more effectively. She could recognize when she felt anxious, scared, or upset, and she was encouraged to express these feelings openly with trusted adults. The consistent support from her foster parents, Ms. Callahan, and her counselor, helped her understand that her emotions were valid and manageable. This understanding was a critical step in building long-term resilience and emotional intelligence. The community around Aaliyah gradually became aware of the importance of protecting and supporting children. Through careful communication and education, neighbors, friends, and school staff learned how to recognize signs of distress and how to respond appropriately. This network of care reinforced the message that Aaliyah was valued, supported, and safe. It also highlighted the broader lesson that every child deserves to be heard and protected. As months passed, Aaliyah's confidence continued to grow. She began to take on small leadership roles in class, helping peers during activities and offering support when others needed it. Her ability to engage socially and academically reflected the success of the support systems around her. These achievements, though modest in appearance, were monumental for a child who had once lived in fear. Ms. Callahan remained a steady presence, providing guidance, encouragement, and reassurance whenever Aaliyah needed it. The teacher understood that healing was a gradual process and that setbacks might occur, But she also knew that consistent support and understanding could help Aaliyah navigate these challenges successfully. Together, they celebrated milestones, acknowledged progress, and continued to work toward a future where Aaliyah could feel safe, confident, and empowered. In her foster home, Aaliyah continued to explore hobbies, learn new skills, and develop interests that brought her joy. She engaged in art, reading, and outdoor activities, discovering that she could enjoy life without fear overshadowing every experience. Her foster parents celebrated these moments, reinforcing her sense of accomplishment and self-worth. These experiences helped Aaliyah reclaim the joy and innocence that had been stolen from her, replacing fear with curiosity and hope. Therapy sessions reinforced these lessons, teaching Aaliyah coping strategies and emotional regulation techniques that would serve her well into the future. She learned to express her feelings clearly, set boundaries, and seek help when needed. These skills were not only vital for her immediate healing, but also for her long-term development and well-being. The consistent support she received created a foundation for resilience and self-confidence that would carry her through life. Aaliyah also began to reflect on her own strength and courage. She understood that she had endured experiences no child should face, and that she had taken the brave step of speaking out. This recognition helped her see herself as capable and resilient, reinforcing the lessons of empowerment that had been central to her healing journey. She began to believe in her own voice and the power it held to seek help and assert her needs. At school, her classmates continued to support her growth. They included her in activities, listened to her ideas, and treated her with respect and kindness. These positive interactions reinforced Aaliyah's understanding that relationships could be safe and nurturing. Ms. Callahan guided these social experiences carefully, ensuring that the classroom remained a supportive environment where Aaliyah could thrive. By the end of this part of her journey, Aaliyah had made remarkable progress. She had learned that speaking up was powerful, that trusted adults could protect and support her, and that she had the right to feel safe and valued. The adults around her, Ms. Callahan, her foster family, and her support network, had created a foundation of trust, safety, and encouragement that allowed her to reclaim her childhood. Aaliyah's story became a quiet but powerful example of courage, resilience, and the importance of believing children. Her journey illustrated how compassionate adults could make a profound difference in a child's life, helping them navigate trauma and reclaim hope. While her healing would continue, Aaliyah had taken significant steps toward a life filled with safety, love, and opportunity, proving that even in the face of adversity, a child could find strength, trust, and a path toward a brighter future. Even after months of support and healing, Aaliyah's journey continued. Each day brought new challenges and opportunities to grow, but she was learning that she was capable of facing them. Ms. Callahan remained by her side, guiding her gently through moments of uncertainty and celebrating every small step she took toward confidence and trust. At school, Aaliyah had grown more comfortable in her surroundings. She no longer flinched at small noises, and she could sit through lessons without wincing in pain. Her classmates had also adjusted, learning to be patient and kind, understanding that Aaliyah might need time to feel fully comfortable. The classroom was now a place where she could focus on learning and enjoy interacting with others without constant fear. Therapy continued to be central to her recovery. Aaliyah worked with her counselor on expressing feelings, understanding emotions, and building coping strategies for any moments of anxiety or fear. They used storytelling, role-playing, and art to help her visualize positive outcomes and practice responses to challenging situations. Over time, Aaliyah began to see herself as a strong child, capable of handling the emotions that once overwhelmed her. Her foster home provided a consistent, supportive environment. Daily routines, clear expectations, and loving guidance helped her feel secure. She began to take pride in small accomplishments like helping to cook dinner, completing her homework independently, or organizing her belongings. These moments reinforced her sense of self-worth and the idea that she could contribute meaningfully to the world around her. Ms. Callahan noticed Aaliyah's growing confidence and encouraged her to share more in class. She gave Aaliyah opportunities to speak during lessons, participate in group projects, and even help classmates when they struggled. These responsibilities helped Aaliyah understand that she had value and that others could rely on her. Each success, no matter how small, strengthened her confidence and sense of belonging. The legal process regarding her abuse continued in parallel with her healing. Aaliyah was shielded from the more distressing aspects of the case, with adults carefully explaining what was happening in ways she could understand. Knowing that justice was being pursued gave her a sense of relief, reinforcing that adults were committed to protecting her and ensuring her safety. Aaliyah also began forming deeper connections with her foster family. She learned to communicate her needs, express her emotions, and trust that they would listen and respond with care. Bedtime became a peaceful routine of stories, quiet conversation, and gentle reminders that she was safe. Playtime transformed into opportunities for creativity and self-expression, allowing her to explore her imagination and regain the joy of childhood. At school, Ms. Callahan worked on fostering empathy and understanding among Aaliyah's peers. They learned to respect each other's boundaries, offer support, and create a safe and inclusive environment. These interactions helped Aaliyah develop healthy social skills and experience friendship in a way she hadn't before. She learned the value of kindness, patience, and collaboration, building the foundation for positive relationships throughout her life. Over time, Aaliyah's sense of fear gradually diminished. She began to walk through hallways without hesitation, participate in activities without anxiety, and approach new experiences with cautious optimism. The combined support from her foster family, Ms. Callahan, the counselor, and her peers reinforced that she was no longer alone and that the world could be a safe and nurturing place. Therapy sessions became more about growth than survival. Aaliyah practiced problem-solving, learned to navigate conflicts, and explored her personal strengths. She engaged in imaginative play, creative writing, and group activities that encouraged her to think critically and express herself. Each session reinforced the idea that she was capable, resilient, and deserving of happiness. Ms. Callahan continued to be a guiding presence, offering reassurance and celebrating Aaliyah's achievements. They spent time reading together, discussing stories that emphasized courage and kindness, and reflecting on how these lessons applied to Aaliyah's life. The teacher's consistent support helped Aaliyah internalize the belief that she was valued, heard, and safe. In her foster home, Aaliyah explored hobbies and interests she had previously avoided. She painted, played music, and participated in outdoor activities with enthusiasm. Her foster parents encouraged her creativity, celebrated her accomplishments, and allowed her to make choices that reinforced her autonomy. These experiences helped Aaliyah regain control over her life and begin envisioning a future filled with possibilities rather than fear. The community around Aaliyah also played a role in her healing. Friends, neighbors, and school staff contributed to a network of support that reinforced the message that she was protected and valued. These relationships helped her develop trust in the adults around her and taught her that she could rely on the kindness and care of others. By now, Aaliyah had begun to understand her own resilience. She recognized that she had faced challenges no child should endure, and that she had survived with courage. This realization empowered her to take further steps toward independence, self-expression, and emotional strength. She began to see herself not as a victim, but as a survivor capable of growth and happiness. As months turned into a year, Aaliyah continued to flourish. She engaged in school activities with confidence, maintained healthy relationships with her peers, and built a strong bond with her foster family. Therapy sessions became opportunities for personal growth rather than emergency support, allowing her to focus on building skills, understanding emotions, and imagining a bright future. Ms. Callahan remained a steadfast supporter, ensuring that Aaliyah's educational environment continued to be safe and nurturing. She provided guidance, encouragement, and mentorship, helping Aaliyah navigate social challenges and celebrate achievements. The teacher's unwavering dedication reinforced the lessons of trust, resilience, and empowerment that had been central to Aaliyah's healing journey. Aaliyah's story became a testament to the power of compassion, support, and human connection. Through the efforts of caring adults, a stable foster home, and a safe school environment, she was able to reclaim her childhood, express herself freely, and develop a sense of self-worth. Each step forward, no matter how small, was a triumph of courage and resilience. By the end of this stage in her journey, Aaliyah had transformed from a frightened, uncertain child into one who was beginning to embrace life with hope and confidence. She had learned the importance of speaking up, trusting supportive adults, and believing in her own strength. Her path to recovery, though ongoing, was filled with promise, guided by the love, care, and dedication of those who had believed in her from the start. Aaliyah's experiences, while painful, had also revealed the profound impact of empathy, patience, and human kindness. The adults who had supported her, Ms. Callahan, her foster family, her counselor, and others, demonstrated that a child's voice could be heard and that recovery was possible with consistent, loving care. Aaliyah's story highlighted the resilience of children and the transformative power of adults who choose to believe, protect, and nurture. As Aaliyah looked toward the future, she carried with her the lessons of safety, trust, and empowerment. She knew that while challenges might still arise, she had the tools, support, and courage to face them. Her journey, though marked by hardship, had become a story of hope, resilience, and the enduring power of human connection. Aaliyah's life, once filled with fear and uncertainty, now held the promise of joy, growth, and a future where she could truly thrive.